All right, .NET developers, listen up. If you need to get up to speed on unit testing, and fast, you are in the right place. We are about to dive into xUnit, which is pretty much the go-to framework for any modern .NET application. So let's jump right in.
So what is xUnit really? Well, you can think of it as a free open source tool that lets you write and run automated tests. It's kind of like a safety net for your code. It makes sure everything works exactly like you think it does, especially every single time you make a change.
Now, you've probably heard of other frameworks, right? Like NUnit or MS Test. But xUnit, it really stands out. And it's for two big reasons. Its modern design and its laser focus on simplicity. Because of that, its popularity has just exploded. It's basically the standard choice for most new .NET projects these days. And that's the real key takeaway here. xUnit isn't just another option on the menu, it's become the default. If you're starting a new ASP.NET Core project, this is almost certainly what you're going to see. So knowing xUnit isn't just helpful anymore, it's pretty much essential. Okay, so we've covered the why. Now let's get into the how. We're going to break down the core concepts, the absolute building blocks you need to know to write your very first xUnit test. You're going to see two main attributes on your tests, fact and theory. A fact is just a simple, straightforward test. It doesn't take any inputs, like checking if 1 + 1 = 2. A theory, on the other hand, is way more flexible. It's for parameterized tests where you can feed it multiple sets of data, like testing a calculator with positive numbers, negative numbers, and 0, all with the same piece of test code. So you run your test, but how do you actually know if it passed or failed? Well, that's where assertions come in. These are simple commands like assert.equal or assert.true that check if what you actually got matches what you expected to get. This is the moment of truth for your code. All right, let's put it all together and see how these pieces fit when you're writing a real test. Because knowing the building blocks is one thing, but structuring them cleanly, well, that's what makes you look like a pro. So, what's the secret sauce? What's that one pattern that if you just follow it will instantly make your tests cleaner, way more readable, and a whole lot easier to maintain down the road? It's this, the arrange, act, assert pattern. We just call it AAA. This pattern is the absolute gold standard. First, you arrange. You set up all your data and objects. Then, you act. You call the one method you're actually testing. And finally, you assert. You check that the result is exactly what you expected. This simple three-step structure makes your tests totally predictable and super easy to understand. Here's another pro tip for you. How you name your tests really matters. A super effective way to do it is to follow this format. The name of the method you're testing, then the scenario, and finally the expected result, all just separated by underscores. I mean, just look at the difference here. Test 1? That's totally useless. But a name like add two numbers returns sum, that tells you the entire story of the test before you even read a single line of code. That's the kind of clarity we're aiming for. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the flip side. Knowing what to do is great, but knowing what not to do, that's how you really level up your skills, fast. The most common mistakes are usually just ignoring the basics we just talked about. Skipping the AAA pattern? That leads to a tangled mess. Poor names? Good luck figuring out what that test does 6 months from now. Other big ones are testing the internal logic instead of the final output, and writing a bunch of tests for super simple code that doesn't really add any value. Try to avoid these. So let's translate all this into something tangible. How do you prove you know your stuff in a technical interview? Let's run through a little rapid-fire Q&A. First question, and it's a classic one. They want to know if you get the fundamentals. What's the real difference between a fact and a theory? The perfect answer is short and to the point. A fact is a simple test, no inputs. A theory is a more powerful, data-driven test that takes parameters. Simple as that. Next up, they're almost definitely going to ask about structure. So can you explain the AAA pattern? Easy. It stands for arrange, act, and assert. It's the standard three-step blueprint for structuring your tests to make sure they're readable, focused, and easy to maintain. And finally, they'll want to see if you get the big picture. Why is xUnit the king of the castle in the modern .NET world? The main reasons are its clean, minimal style, its modern design that cuts out a lot of the old fluff, and the big one, it's deeply integrated and supported within the official .NET ecosystem. So if you need to wrap it all up in one killer sentence for them, here it is. xUnit is a modern .NET testing framework that helps us write clean, maintainable tests using concepts like fact,
theory and the AAA pattern. That one line proves you get the what, the why, and the how. So we've covered how to write some awesome tests with xUnit. You get the concepts, the best practices, all of it. But that leaves one final interesting question to think about. Just because you can test something, does that mean you should? What's the one thing you should probably never write a unit test for? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.